Look, it's winter. It's like negative 100 degrees out there. You don't want to be outside freezing your sensitive reader skin off. Nah, you want to be inside watching my videos, but also reading some amazing books. But listen, I get it. The bookstores are such a big and scary place. Where the heck are you going to find some amazing books to read? This is a list of the best fantasy books that I read in 2019. Go ahead and click the thumbs up button down there, subscribe if you haven't, and click that bell for me as well, and check out my merch. It's a brand new, it's fresh, it's fashion. It'll be linked down below for you as well. So let's just jump in because I know you're excited. I'm excited to finally be able to talk about all of these books that I read toward the beginning of the year that I haven't talked about in a while. And that first one is Foundry Side by Robert Jackson Bennett. You come for the cover and you certainly stay for the cover. This is purely epic adventure, amazing world building, magic and political intrigue, and mystery as well. Now, I'm not going to go into the story elements too much because I feel like I went into this mostly blind and it was one hell of a ride. We have a main character who is a thief and she lives in this grimy city that is ruled by these emergent houses, and we also have a magic system that involves scribing objects, which basically changes the object's behavior. One day she is sent into a warehouse to steal just a simple box, and it ends up turning her entire world upside down. The world building is absolutely brilliant, from the brutal landscape and all the really interesting scribing gadgets. There's tons of funny bits, there's some horrible gut-wrenching bits, and there's gore and fight scenes and a whole heist thing you have to worry about, and I ate it up. The story made me want more stories, and I love when a book literally makes me so eager to pick up book 2, which comes out in 2020, and what I'm basically saying is I need it now.
Don't care how, I want it now.
So, earlier this year, I filmed a vlog titled, I Read the Dirtiest Book That I Own, and little did I know that it was gonna be a favorite. And that is The Burrow by Mark Smiley. If you have kids in the room, I would maybe suggest pausing this video and make them vacate the premises. I know a lot of adults like to watch my videos with their young ones. I know this because I've been tagged in the Twitter photos. But this review is about to get extra spicy. So let's talk about this. The Goodreads rating of this book is absolutely atrocious, and it's probably because of the sex scene that involves a unicorn horn. You heard me. If you are able to see past all of that, then you will see the amazing world and plot line and flawed characters that are in this book. This book has one of the most exciting and amazing prologues I have ever read in a book, and it was so intense and fun. Even with all of the orgies, I mean, if you think that the first season of Game of Thrones is just porn, think again because you haven't read this book. We are following a group of characters who are set on a quest to find a magical sword that was once owned by an ancient wizard and is rumored to be stored in the Burrow. Well, when a magical ritual, that's a really hard sentence to say, magical ritual, goes wrong while trying to unlock the map to the Burrow, the map ends up on the skin of a very powerful noblewoman, and things get a little tricky. This was impossible to put down for me, and yes, I would definitely put it in the category of like erotic fantasy. Like this is dark, but oh, this book is definitely something, and like I said, I couldn't put it down. And I am here forever and always waiting for that sequel to be announced, and there's been a release date every year for the past like 3 or 4 years. But I'll be here, waiting, Mark Smiley. Also, lots of boners. Lots of boners. But I loved it. If that says something bad about me, then whatever. Legends say that sometime in the early 1800s, Holly announced sometime in the distant future she would pick up Mistborn. So we waited, and we waited. What accent is this? I don't know. And then we waited some more. And then finally, we kept on waiting. And at some point during the fall, she picked up Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson, and it became an instant favorite. In many ways, honestly, this is such a straightforward, traditional fantasy about a young orphan who is plucked out of her little society by a mentor figure, and she finds out she has unique powers, and she battles the evil tyrant that takes over the land. Sanderson tells this familiar tale in a fun and interesting way and has a lot of heart. If you're looking for an ambitious, revolutionary take on the genre that is fast-paced and engaging, then I highly recommend picking this one up, like the 5 of you who haven't read it. It's truly the characters that really shine here, plus the world itself. It's so bleak and depressing, and it's exactly the type of world that should be when taken over by an unimaginable evil. Ash falls from the sky, dulling the landscape, and it's even killing vegetation. The sun is red, and the idea of consuming metals and then having powers afterwards, like, why can't our world be this cool? This was a real treat. I'm so incredibly happy to have finally read my very first Brandon Sanderson book, and now I'm addicted, and I'm ready to read all the rest. Now it's time to go in kind of like a total different direction, and that is The Wolf and the Whale by Jordana Max Brodsky. This is a book that I had absolutely no idea about until Orbit offered it up to me, and then going into it, I had no idea what to expect. But as soon as I started it, I knew it was going to be something special. The story is set in approximately 1000 AD in a very Arctic, harsh landscape, and we're following Omat, who is a part of her Inuk tribe, and though she is born in a woman's body, she has the spirit of a man and is raised as one. The author did such an amazing and phenomenal job researching this time period and this way of living. I found it fascinating knowing about how this tribe survived, how they hunted for their meat, and how they skinned seals. This all worked so seamlessly into the story that I didn't realize like exactly how much I was learning. This author's understanding of mythology is so unbelievable, and the way she combines Norse and Inuit mythologies into one book and have them interweave together and also form the magic system is award-winning. And then add her very thorough explanation of gender and then a slow burn romance, you literally have a historic epic masterpiece. This is an incredibly poetic story, and I feel like it'll always have a place in my heart. That's how much I loved it, and I feel like if you picked it up, it will definitely stay with you as well. Hey, you know what this video is missing? Not this epic shirt, that's for sure. Joe Abercrombie. I don't think I have ever included 3 entire books, all by the same author, but there's a first for everything. This was the year that I got caught up on all of my unread Joe Abercrombie, and that in itself feels like such an accomplishment. So first up, I have here Best Served Cold, which is book 4 in the First Law universe, and then I have Red Country, which is book 6. If you have only read the First Law trilogy and you haven't went on to the standalones yet, you are missing out on so much. I actually enjoyed these 2 standalones way more than the original trilogy, and that's saying something because I loved that trilogy. But these are on a whole other level. Abercrombie is a master of characterization. In such a short amount of time, you become so interested in the characters of the story. Sometimes you don't even like the characters, but you are so engrossed in their plotline. In this case though, both protagonists are 2 amazing women that you can't help but just love, and they go through such hardships, but in the end they still look for hope. Best Served Cold is entirely a revenge story, and it's so satisfying, and Red Country is actually inspired by Western fantasy, which is something I've learned this year that I really like. And then we have A Little Hatred, which is book 8 in the First Law universe and the most recent release. And let me tell you, you would think that I would be sick of this world already, but no, it actually made me thirsty for more. This one is set 40-ish years after Red Country, and things are changing. The world is expanding and technology is developing, and we're following the children of the characters that you love and adore in the original trilogy. I cannot highly recommend Joe Abercrombie any more than I already have, so just pick them up already and you won't regret it. This next book I'm going to talk about is a book that I took one look at the very first time I saw it and thought, it's not for me. And that is The 10,000 Doors of January by Alex E. Harrow. This is basically a magical realism, which is totally not a genre that I ever go for. But I got a surprise copy in the mail, and all it took was for me to read the first page, and I was immediately hooked. I've never fallen in love with a book so freaking fast, especially one that doesn't involve dragons and mercenaries and sword fighting. The cover helped though. It definitely helped draw me in. If you're a fan of the books Chronicles of Narnia or the Wayward Children series or just various books about stepping into a door and being in a new world, then I think you're going to like this one. This book has magic and fantasy, but it also has real world aspects like racism and classism. We're following a little girl named January, and she lives with her father's employer, Mr. Locke, who is a collector of very mysterious items from all around the world. One day, while exploring the mansion, she ends up finding a book called The 10,000 Doors, which states that bending the physical laws of the universe is possible. Then proceeds to find a door and then steps through it. I don't blame her. I would do it too. This is a beautiful piece of literary fiction with magic and alternate worlds and even a vampire. This is literally a tale of movement, of not standing still and standing up for yourself, and it's truly life-changing. When I read this, I was like super hyped, super pumped for life, and it made me really excited. Alrighty, so let's move on to a fantastic sequel that I read this year, because I feel like all I've been talking about is fantasy debuts. But that is The Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang. I was very lucky enough to read this book very early, which explains why I still don't own a freaking physical copy yet, which I'm very ashamed of. This is the sequel to The Poppy War, which actually made it to my favorites list last year, so it's very fitting that the next installment made it to my list this year. Hopefully we can repeat that with the third book. In all its intensity, there are several new key elements to the Dragon Republic, which makes it strong and brilliant. We start at the heart of where the Poppy War left off and all of its emotional turmoil. It is a brightly, or if we're going for the more literal direction, darkly, woven as you would expect from R.F. Kuang's mind. That woman is a freaking genius. In between its primarily grim world building, R.F. Kuang still builds upon this story that is multifaceted and balances things quite evenly across the board. There are new characters included in the plotline, plus some old faces that I was really excited to see. And the aftermath of this book truly sets for one hell of a final third book. The next book that blew my mind this year was The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter. This new fantasy debut is so well polished. The world created by Evan Winter took my breath away. It's not shallow. It's a whole structure that we get to explore, from geographically to politically. It's honestly really impressive. It's an African-inspired fantasy, and it's not just another dragon fantasy. Right here, ladies and gentlemen, is the most rare of beasts. The myths and legends created here are so beautiful, and you really feel so immersed within them. This is surely for fans of combat fiction or just stark contrasts of good and evil, because those elements are really at play here. The hero of the story does not pull back any punches when it comes to his enemies, and I really feel like this is a true underdog story. I have 2 more books left, and the next one is The Last Wish. The Witcher series is quite possibly one of the most greatest franchises ever created, from all the books to the video games and now to the Netflix series. It's highly acclaimed, and for very good reason. It's set in a beautiful, lush world full of monsters and demons and beasts and pretty much everything else you can think of, including like creatures from fairy tales like mermaids, which is freaking rad. And then we have Geralt, who is truly a ladies' man. There's also an unbelievable level of tenderness throughout this series, even through all the blood and gore. Despite the horror and the blood, this book can actually make you laugh. And the final book I have here is definitely going to be a shocker compared to all the other books I have talked about, and that is The Bone Houses by Emily Lloyd Jones. This right here, people, is the book that broke my YA fantasy curse. Yes! The best YA fantasy I read in 2019. As much as I try to avoid them, this one just kind of wormed its way into my life and it called out to me and I was like, okay. It was amazing. I didn't expect anything from this and then it just bitch slapped me right in the face. It's following a 17-year-old gravedigger named Ren, and she only cares about two things, her family and her graveyard that she has to take care of, and they are both in danger. There are shambling corpses just outside of the medieval village that they live in, and every now and then, one just slips through the cracks, and Ren has to dispose of them. Where in the hell are these zombies coming from? You'll have to read this to find out. The world was so nicely crafted, and the folklore was interesting as hell. It was spooky, it was an adventure, and there's even a cute romance with characters I actually liked. Mark your calendars that I just said cute romance, because you will never hear me say those words again. This beautiful, unique, and death positive book made it to my favorites list for a reason, and I kind of want more books by this author. Hey, look at us, we made it through yet another video. I'm so proud of you, and you, and you, and also proud of you. You didn't do too well. Those are all the best books that I read in 2019. Tell me down below some books that you read that are new favorites, because I would love to know. Subscribe if you haven't, because I would really appreciate it, and also follow me on Instagram at HollyHeartsBooks and on Twitter at HollyNiece, and until we meet again, happy reading.